Hi bookish friend, welcome to another reading journal update. I'm Rox and today we will be setting up a spread for the Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the second book in the Spellshop series, but they are not necessarily related. You don't need to read the first one in order to read this one. They only have a small connection, a small thing in common. We will get to that a bit later. This is a cozy fantasy centered around Terlu Perna, who used to be a librarian in the Great Library of Elysium, but there has been something she did that she was punished for. So this library held books of spells, but not everyone could do spells. Only the powerful wizards were allowed to do spreads. The rest of the people were not allowed to. And as a librarian, she had access to those spell books. And because she was growing more and more bored of being alone in that library, she decided to use a spell to create a sentient plant in order to have a friend. This is not a spoiler, it's just the premise of the book, so don't worry. And because she cast this spell, she was turned into a wooden statue. Her punishment was supposed to serve as an example and scare anyone who would want to attempt to do a spell. Some time passed, and one day she wakes up in the middle of a frozen forest. She happily discovers that she's not a statue anymore, but she starts to get worried that she will die because of the cold, so she starts looking for a place to keep warm, and she stumbles upon a greenhouse. She enters and notices that it's an enchanted greenhouse because everything inside is super warm and cozy. She falls asleep there, and later she meets the gardener of this greenhouse, and he is actually the one who woke her up in the hopes that she would help him fix the greenhouse because its magic is failing. Terlu is super scared to use magic ever again, but she is completely mesmerized by how amazing this enchanted greenhouse is, so she decides to help him try to save it. A lot of other things happen, a lot of characters come in, and it's a, generally speaking, wholesome story, but it also has some underlying themes that are not easy. Both of them have to face some issues they have with themselves and with family, and what I'm trying to say is that it's not simply a silly book, it also has some substance. I mentioned in the beginning that I will tell you how it relates to the first book. It is not necessarily a spoiler because you are kind of told Terlu's story in the first book as well, because the first book has as one of the main characters Kaz, the sentient plant that Terlu created, and as the backstory of that plant you also get the backstory of Terlu. Of course, there other things happen, it takes place somewhere else, but they are happening in the same world, and they are connected by this common thing that one character in the first book is the plant, and in the second book we get the story of what happens to Terlu after she was turned into a statue, and we find out that she eventually becomes human and she has a story of her own. The story in this book takes place in winter, and they even have a celebration that resembles Christmas, but you could say that it also has some spring vibes due to the many plants and flowers inside of the greenhouses. There's actually a third volume coming in this series. It will be published later this year. I think it has summerish vibes. It's something about the sea, I think. I don't remember the exact title, but I think we had a glimpse of the main character of that story in this second book. I'm not entirely sure, but I think so. And truly I cannot wait for summer for that book to come out so that I can read it. I've been saying this a lot, but cozy fantasy is my new favorite book genre, so I will be reading as many of those as possible. If you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. And we are approaching the end of this video, so if you enjoyed it, I invite you to click the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to the channel. I post there every month my bullet journal setup, and as often as I have time, my reading journal updates. I generally read 2 books a month, so the reading journal updates are not necessarily a constant thing on my channel, but I post them as often as I can. And this was it for today. See you next time.